We are all right. Welcome to the newest episode, newest update podcast of the Western Star Movie Podcast here at WIUR radio station. Today, I'm your host, HJW Hunter West, and we have a lot to talk about. There we go. We have a lot to talk about today. A lot of good things happening. Some not so good, maybe. I don't know. But we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to get into this. Of course, you read the topic of today is talking about the biggest movie that hit last week, and that was John Wick Chapter 4. And got a lot more to talk about. Just need to see what I have. Dungeons and Dragons, total drama, Wilds, biggest movies to look forward to in April, and John Wick Chapter 4. Okay. Just looking at my um, the list of what I'm reviewing in order for that. So we obviously have some topics that are a little bit off the side table, and then we have some, our main topic, which will be John Wick Chapter 4 review. By the way, if you're new here, try to help out the channel, not pushing you to it. Do this every Tuesday, around 2-ish. If things get a little bit overpacked, maybe earlier or later, but around this area. Um, giving you a lot of the movie reviews and stuff to talk about. And yeah, really, really excited to see what we have in store for us today, or what I have in store for us today. So yeah. And so let's get into it. We have 4 topics to talk about. A little bit off the top, and I might throw in another one to discuss, but whatever. So, with that said, let's get into the first topic of our podcast, shall we? And that is this. One of the movies that came out last weekend that I saw actually 2 weekends ago at an early Amazon Prime screening of was that of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And I said in the last stream, really enjoyed the movie. It was a fun time at the theater. Great reviews, great audience score, great critic score. It's currently in the high 90s. Apparently, it's 90% fresh with 111 reviews, which means the majority of the people that's seen this movie love it. So it's it's up there. And they did this early access thing with Prime members, and then I think they did one. Um, I think they did their early access sneak preview last Sunday on March 26th, and I think tonight they're expanding a little bit more for early fan event with bigger formats. And forgot to discuss. Well, I didn't discuss it yet, but it was always curious to me if the movie was going to get good reviews, what was the box office going to look like, and how much money would this movie possibly make if it were to continue, or if they wanted to expand it as a franchise. And March is a packed month. I mean, we just saw Creed 3 exceed expectations in the box office, Scream 6 exceed expectations at the box office. Fortunately, Shazam 2 didn't do that. It actually underperformed, and it's looking like to bomb in the box office. And John Wick Chapter 3 or 4 overperformed with 73.8 million worldwide, which is the biggest in the franchise. But the question is, if Dungeons and Dragons is going to be a hit, how much money does it need to start worldwide and domestically if we are talking about making probably a future expanded universe in a franchise around this? And they're not great. In fact, I don't even know if this is good because the budget of this movie is really big. But box office or Deadline is reporting that Dungeons and Dragons eyes a possible $65 million worldwide opening. Which, if we take a look at that, let's talk about why that doesn't feel fresh, and to me, why it feels really bad. We're talking about a movie that I think has high 90 critics and audience reviews, and all the reviewers that have seen it early already have said, "Oh, this is a really fun movie. People need to go see it so this movie can get a franchise." And it's a fun film to watch. And that's the thing. On the other hand, it premiered at SX Southwest Film Festival, and they said it had a great reaction to it. People loved it. And they said that the people at Paramount Studios were like, this might be a bigger hit than a lot of people suspected it to be. But the question was, how much of a hit would that be? And they're saying it's probably going to hit around the 65 million worldwide opening, which means now when it says worldwide opening, 65 plus worldwide opening, that means this combined opening weekend domestically, which means here in the United States and Canada and on other territories outside of the US, like India, China, Japan, Egypt, whatever you want to call it, worldwide, it will make 65 million worldwide. The problem, and the reason why this concerns me, is because the budget of this movie is $150 million. So if this movie does make around the $65 million worldwide opening, that means it's going to make less than half of the budget that the movie actually cost. Because the movie cost $151 million, and if you're talking about half of that, that means like 75.5 million, and they're projecting maybe 65 plus. So this movie might make less worldwide, and that's not really good. They're saying that they're seeing a 30 to 40 million start stateside, and they're talking about the fact that um uh you know, they're talking about, oh look, maybe it's going to do 25 plus worldwide or 25 million in the United States, but this movie needs to make a lot of money because we're talking about, if this movie doesn't hit all the cylinders, you know, there's going to be some bad things happening, which also brings up the other problem, and that is the fact that John Wick Chapter 3 is going to be in its second weekend and is probably going to make money as well. And they're saying that it's probably going to stay strong with a 33 second weekend with for a 55% decrease, which means that not only will Dungeons and Dragons look to really be in the struggle, but also it's going to have competition with John Wick Chapter 4. Now, other than John Wick Chapter 4, there's really no other movie that's going to do as good as those two movies. I mean, Scream 6 is losing its legs already. Shazam! Fear of the Gods. I don't think a lot of people are going to see that movie because it's not even doing well in the box office in second weekend in the United States. And Creed 3, it's starting to lose people because apparently I saw an ad. They're putting the movie on digital and demand March 31st, which is this Friday. So Creed 3, they're looking to close that theatrical window, but it's made a lot of money already. So it really depends on that. And the other thing to look out for is the fact that the last Dungeons and Dragons movie was terrible. 23 years ago, the movie opened with 7.2 million and worldwide did 34. And that pit starred a number of fresh faces, including Jeremy Irons, one of the most popular. He played Scar in the original Lion King. So there's a lot of concern about this one, but they're saying that it's gonna do better than that movie by a margin. But the question is again, how much money? Because people need to go out right now and say, "Hey guys, listen, this Dungeons and Dragons movie, it's the real deal, and you need to go see it because this movie rocks, and it's a great time to go to the movies." Like when Creed 3 came out, I was thinking that movie's gonna go in like 38 to 40, but when the word got out and people were like early showings were like, "Oh no, it's actually really, really good." People went and saw it. They went opening day. It made 58 million worldwide. Same with John Wick. John Wick was an anticipated movie, but it also was really, really good. And that movie managed to make 73 million. So it really depends on how much can the audience itself and like the reviewers out there and the fans say, this movie's good. Everybody's got to go see it. The marketing needs to be really good. How much is it going to take for people to be like, oh, this movie can make 300 million worldwide? Because if this movie makes 300 million worldwide, then that's a good amount because that's more than half of the budget. That's more than the budget, or that's double the budget. And that could be, oh, it's a franchise. And if the movie makes 100 million, over 100 million domestically in the United States, then yeah, that's another great franchise. And that's another good idea to make a franchise of it. But as it stands right now, they're looking at a low 65 plus worldwide opening, which, you know, it sucks. But again, it just comes down to the fact that, are people going to rush to the theaters to see this movie? Because look, they rushed to see Scream 6, which overperformed. They went and saw Creed 3, which overperformed. They saw John Wick Chapter 3 or 4, which overperformed, which were all really good movies. And this movie's actually the second highest rating of those three movies at 90%. Creed 3, I think, has an 89%. Scream 6 has a 878, and John Wick Chapter 4 has a 94%. So it's in the high 90s, and we're talking about a low 65 million plus worldwide opening weekend. I don't know. But the other thing to look out for is the fact that they say that there's a comp, which is Uncharted, which opened to 44 million domestically, and ultimately the movie made $148.6 million worldwide in the United States and Canada. Now that was a movie that didn't get as good reviews as this movie, but had popular actors Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg in it. It was based off of a popular video game, and it made 401 million worldwide. But again, talking about that, the movie opened early in certain territories, and so there was a little bit of legs there. But even then, if the movie opened the same weekend, I think it would have had the same amount of legs. So it really depends on if this movie can emulate the results of Uncharted, then there's a franchise here. And then people are going to rush out to see this movie, and it's going to be a really good hit. And Paramount's really hoping that, look, this movie is really good. Everybody's seen it. They say it's really good. And so why not everybody go see it? And that's the thing. So the question is really, for everybody else, and look at my last podcast. I talked about Dungeons and Dragons and how it was a great fun time at the movies. And listen, people are going to want to watch this movie. So the question is really out there, should this movie make money? I think it should, because you want to have a movie with this amount of love and affection and care for the franchise and the IP to make a lot of money. So whatever you think, let me know. With that down, let's move on to the other topic, the next topic, and that is this one. I'm a little bit of a nostalgic fan or anything, because one of the shows that I grew up with that really was a true animated classic was that of a little show called Total Drama. And over time, it kind of was disastrous in its final seasons, but still, it was a great fan base, and it was one of the more interesting shows because this was a show that kind of poked fun at reality TV shows. Now, let me just get this out of the way. Reality TV shows, they're stupid. They're just you film with a camera, there's a bunch of people in your house, and it's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do today?" Nothing. And all these other shows that have that, Real Housewife or whatever you wanna call it, all these other shows on those networks, it's stupid. It makes no sense, and you wonder, like, is this fake drama? Because they get into drama every week, so it's like, why can't these people just stay friends? So it's dumb, but they poked fun at it, and it was a smash hit at Cartoon Network, and it spawned much other seasons. It spawned in kind of a spin-off of that, which ruined it. But they announced 2 years ago on March or February 17th, I think it was 2021, that the series would be returning to HBO Max and Cartoon Network. And I remember at that time I was like, wait a minute, this is actually true. This is an actually true thing that's happening. The show is coming back because the fans want it to come back. And so there was how many? 6 seasons of this? 7, I think. Yes, 7 seasons. And the spin-off show that ruined it. They turned them into little kids and the humor wasn't there. It was awful. Haven't watched any of the episodes ever. But occasionally, it's nice to rewatch the original. And I remember in 2019, I think it was in spring, I introduced my father to Total Drama and watched every single season that came before it, and it was fun. It was a fun time. And now they're returning it. And they said that they were going to work on a entirely new cast of diverse people. They were going to do a lot of the new elements to it, the new like modernized elements to it by introducing a diverse cast and doing all these weird challenges or whatever. And so they revealed that a new poster showed the new cast and obviously the original two hosts, Chris McLean, and that um what else? Um what is it? Oh, Chef. I forget Chef's name, but you know what I mean. And so they were giving us all these like small little hints of what it looks like. And well, they officially got some promos of the show that's coming out. And and they're very short, small little like 30-second promos, but I don't think it looks that good. Now to get things in the shape, I have not really hated this a single season. Now, are there some creative things that the writers do that kind of piss me off a little bit? Yes, but that's how the show runs, and that's how it always runs. The first season, nostalgic, TD action, not as good but still fun. World Tour is a banger. Revenge of the Island, you're starting to lose me. All Stars, that's where you started to lose people because they just mess up that show. Potato Island, listen, for all the fans out there, I think that's an underrated season. I don't care. Redonkulous Race is awesome, is the best one yet. And then Drama Rama just sucks. That's the one I hate, but it doesn't really count. So they announced they gave us some looks at what's to come with an entirely new voice cast and I don't think they've revealed who the voice cast is yet on the website, but doesn't look like I don't think any of the well, it doesn't we don't know yet if any of the original voice actors are coming in back to voice some of these characters. We don't know. But one of the things that I'm already mad about is the fact that Chris McLean was voiced by the great Christian Potenza, and his voice was very nostalgic. And there's some people out there who voice it a lot. And so I was wondering, like, I'm super excited. Is he going to be back as the voice? And they talked about how, and when talking this race, there's a new host. Obviously, there's a bunch of new characters, but there's a new host called Don, voiced by Terry McGeeran, who's also one of the co-writers and helpers of the show. And it was revealed in October 26th of 2022. They said that, oh no, I'm not voicing anybody because I don't want to do that. Well, turns out on March 28th, 2023, he confirmed that he was going to be replacing Potenza as the voice of Chris. And this is explained as a creative decision with respect to the reboot, which means that they were just like, by the way, I don't think we need you anymore because we're already getting somebody else to voice the other guy, Chef. So it's like, you know what? How about we just get somebody new? How about we get that guy that doesn't sound like him at all to voice him? So there's already some controversy about that. And here's the problem that I have. And again, there were small teasers. We don't know when the show is coming out, but here's why I'm nervous going into this. Is because that they're going to do a lot of these things with these new revamped ideas where it's like we're going to put in all this modern day stuff. So it's like all these TikToking because the premise of this show states that contestants are tested to their limits by participating in extreme baking, TikToking, and disastrous horror movie inspired challenges. And so they're obviously going to bring in all of these modern day social media ideas. And it says a diverse cast of 16 new characters. They're going to be like, okay, so they're all going to have different varieties of them. And, there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, that is not good. That is ridiculous. It should be the original. They should do something different. It's like, you can't really do anything because it's what they wanted to do. And it's going to definitely trigger some people, but it's making me nervous because the fact that if you're going to do a new season of this, but you're going to change a lot of it, wouldn't you want the fans to understand, like, okay, this is why? Because it just came out of the gate like a couple months ago. This guy was not going to be voicing anybody. And then the day the teasers start coming out, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm the new voice of the host of the show. The other guy couldn't do it because there was respectable creative differences, which make no sense. So again, I'm a fan. I'm a really big fan of the show. Um, I really think that they're going to probably drop the ball on this one. Again, we gotten teasers, haven't gotten any other information on who the voice cast is, what it's going to play out with, but it's already getting me a little bit nervous. Question is for you guys, do you even watch the show? Are you a fan? And if you are, how do you feel about this new information being released to the public? Whatever you think, let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to the next topic, shall we? And that is this one. I'm actually going to skip the Wilds episode. Oh God, the Wilds episode. What's its face? 5 review, and get into this because it's almost the end of March, and I still haven't seen all of the movies to talk about. I think I need like two more. I'm gonna check. How many do I need? I need one, two, three, four. Okay, so four more. So four more movies, and it's been a really, really good month for March. And the box office has been really good for these movies. So it got me wondering, well, let's look into April and see what movies are coming out that might make some noise. That could be good, that could be bad, and what movies could absolutely dominate the box office. Well, I want to start out with that one because there's really only one movie that's really looking like it's going to dominate the box office for a couple weeks now until Guardians 3 comes out the first week of May. Is my yeah. Um and that movie is really the only movie that looks like it's going to really be a box office hit is the Super Mario Bros movie. That's really the only thing that's coming out that's going to be like, "Oh, this movie's coming out. That's going to be a really big movie. It's going to make a lot of money because it's an IP. It's by Illumination, the guys who made the Minions movies that made a lot of money as well." And listen, they're projecting this movie's going to make a lot of money on its 5-day weekend, which I have no idea why they pushed it up 2 days. I think it's because um I think it's because school. I think there's Good Friday, third Thursday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday. I don't know what it is, but a lot of places are taking off, so maybe more families can go see it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever. But they pushed it up, and listen, this movie might make $1 billion. It might not, but it might be one of the biggest movies of the year. You got a great voice cast, great IP, well-known IP, great studio making it. It looks really, really good. I'm interested to see if this movie is going to make $1 billion by the end of the month. If it does, it's going to be a hit. But that depends on if the movie is actually really good. And the trailers that they've shown, the images, and all the promos that they've been showing are it looks really good. And it's surprising because it comes out literally in a week from now, April 5th. So there's that to tell you. So that's the movie to me that's going to be the biggest box office hit of the month. Let's also talk about some movies that might make noise that are actually pretty good. And one of them is Air. Now, Air is this movie that's directed by Ben Affleck, that's written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and is about a shoe salesman at Nike who works to sign rookie Michael Jordan to a deal to wear their shoes. Now, this movie, is it going to make a lot of money? Pro- Probably not. It's not going to make a lot of money, but could this movie be a great film? Yes. So far, with 21 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, a fresh 100% with an average rating of 8.1 out of 10. So the people who have seen this movie so far say it's a great film. It's one of the best sports movies ever made. Definitely going to be a really big one to talk about. And that's really it for the first week of April. Now let's move on to the second week of April. And again, there's really not that much big movies coming out, but there is one movie that could be a little bit of a surprise hit, and I'm not really that sure, and that is Renfield. Now, the first trailer, I think, has like 45 million views. It's a huge amount of views for a trailer that came out in January, and a lot of people are excited to see this movie. The question is it going to be a big hit? Because the budget of this movie, I didn't even realize it, is $86.2 million. It's a big budget. Um, and so the story of this movie is Dracula's right hand man, Renfield, finds a new lease on life in modern day New Orleans when he falls in love with a cop who decides to finally stand up to his creator in hopes of finally breaking free of his servitude. The trailers have been funny. And look, I don't know if this movie's going to be good. It might not be. We'll see. Might be a big hit. Another movie that's coming out that, again, I don't really know if it's going to be good or not, is a movie called The Pope's Exorcist. It's directed by Julius Avery, who made Overlord and what is the movie that came out last? Samaritan. Samaritan was a disappointment. I really liked Overlord. And you got Russell Crowe in here starring as this priest that is, based off of the memoirs of him figuring out this demon. And again, could the movie be awful? Maybe. It could be awful. But that's just one of the movies that stick out. There's nothing new on streaming that comes out that weekend. Now there's 3 movies on the weekend of the 21st that come out that I'm actually really, really interested in. The first one I'm automatically really excited for is that of Evil Dead Rise. This is based off of the franchise of Evil Dead that made breakout hit with Sam Raimi directing, Bruce Campbell obviously as Ash. And the trailers for this movie have been awesome. And also what's happening is that this movie was supposed to come out in theaters, or it was supposed to be set for HBO Max exclusively. But they said, we're actually going to put this in theaters because we think that this movie can be good. And also the studio doesn't want to rely on HBO Max only releases for Warner Brothers. And so far they have been fantastic. The reviews, 96% with 25 reviews. So again, apparently it's a really, really good movie. The trailers have been really good. And I'm excited. Another movie that I'm probably going to see that might not make as much money is that of The Covenant. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which is a movie directed by Guy Ritchie. Again, Guy Ritchie is one of those directors that you can love his films or hate his films. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal. The trailer was interesting. It looked fine. It's going to be one of those war movies that gets you tearing up, but it could be good. It could be mediocre, honestly. I don't know. It's about this sergeant that recruits this person to help with a mission in Afghanistan, and things go wrong. And this guy who helps him rescues him by dragging him through the desert to avoid the Taliban. And he returns to the United States, and he was pursued by the Taliban, and now he's got to go back there to help him out. So it's great. It looks like a really good story. Could be good. It could be bad. I don't know. But another movie that's coming out is called Ghosted, and it's on Apple TV Plus. And this movie looks hilarious as well. It stars Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, and it's about this guy who falls in love with this person, and then she ghosts him, and so he goes to London to see where she is, and apparently she's like this super secret agent, and it's kind of like a romantic comedy action movie. And I thought the trailer was good. Again, it's on Apple TV Plus, so it's not going to make a lot of money. It's not going to make money in theaters, but look, it looks good. The cast looks good. I'm intrigued. And then finally, a movie that I'm really, really skeptic on after Pinocchio was absolutely terrible is the remake. Well, it's kind of a remake, but whatever. It's a remake and a live action version of Peter Pan. And this movie's called Peter Pan and Wendy. And it's pretty much about Wendy, who's a girl to leave her childhood home, and he meets Peter Pan, and they bring their daughter, her brothers, and there's a tiny fairy called Tinkerbell to Neverland, and they meet Captain Hook and try to do adventures and stuff. Original one was a classic. It came out, and so they've been doing a lot of these live action movies, and this one's on Disney Plus. Pinocchio was on Disney Plus. It was awful. I I'm I want to know if this movie's good or not. Again, I have no idea if this movie's going to be good. It looks like it's going to be better than expected, but again, that's just me spitballing. So again, that's the movie. Those are the movies that are coming out in April that look like they're going to be good. Um so yeah. Question is, what movie is going to be good? Or well, question is Mario going to be the biggest movie of the year? Is what's going to be the best movie of the month and what's going to be the worst movie of the month? We don't know. What do you think? Let me know below. With that down, let's move on to the next topic, and that is the Wilds episode whatever 5. So we pick up here. Rachel seeks necessary closure when Fatten makes an unsettling discovery in Nora's journal. Meanwhile, an incident comes to light that sends shockwaves through the boys' camp, altering their life on the island forever. Seth is Gretchen's second Confederate on the island, recording a message characterizing Josh as fragile and unstable. When the boys split up to search for fresh water, Seth destroys the hidden microphones on the beach. After Kieran and Josh discover her late, Josh tells Kieran that he was assaulted by Seth. When the group reconvenes on the beach, Kieran publicly accuses Seth. The only person that doesn't believe is Raph. He believes Seth's claim of innocence, and the others vote to banish Seth from the group. That night, Josh asks the group to promise to never reveal what happened to him again. Meanwhile, the girls hold a funeral for Nora. Fatten persuades Leah to try to let go of her suspicions of Nora, but Fatten finds herself finds hidden notes in Nora's belongings that indicate her own suspicions. And after the funeral, Rachel sits on the beach mourning while we see that Nora is actually alive, watching her on the monitors at Gretchen's headquarters. Flash forward, we see one of the agents berates Leah for not letting Raph finish his story and gives her a hint that allows her to find a cell phone hidden in her room. Gretchen and another agent interview Bo, Kieran, Henry, and Josh, but none of them reveal why Seth was exiled. So there's a lot to talk about. But really, I want to get it done in a short amount of time because I want to get the John Wick review ready. They deal with a lot of issues about losing somebody, how that creates stress with yourself, and also, they deal with assault on somebody and how your friends have your back, how they help you out, and if how that really helps you as well. And so it's just there's a lot of messages in here that are really connective, not to me, but like to fans who watch the show, and it works on an emotional standpoint, and you start to get more hints about who the characters are, and what they have for secrets. And so the show is building up to an ending that should have gotten a third season. Just saying it right now. So whatever. Um 8 out of 10 episode. Just there you go. All right. Let's get into the actual reason why I'm here, and that is because John Wick Chapter 4 finally came out and hit theaters, crushed the box office, and I was really, really, really excited for this movie. It's Keanu Reeves. John Wick franchise is one of the most popular films in one of the most popular action franchises. I don't think they made a bad John Wick movie. I don't even think they made a mediocre John Wick movie. They have made a great John Wick movie every single time a new one releases. But again, it comes to mind, are you going to push it too far? Like, when is it the right time to stop? Because again, too much is too much, and you might be pushing this franchise to the end. This is the fourth John Wick movie, and this movie, if you haven't seen part three, Parabellum, I'm going to spoil what happens, or chapter three, Parabellum, I'm going to spoil what happens. So at the end of that movie, Ian McShane shoots John Wick, having the bad guys think that he is now banned from the Continental, and he and Lawrence Fishburne agree to get revenge on the High Table. And so he has to travel to these different locations to battle Marquis de Ramo, played by Bill Skarsgård, who has to fight his way to stay as the High Table and have John Wick have his freedom from all these bounties being placed on him. And so there's a lot. And this movie clocks in at 2 hours and 49 minutes. And a movie like this, you're wondering, like, how much is there? So a movie that's short, if it's short and you feel like the movie didn't progress anything, you feel like they could have extended this runtime. If you feel like the movie is too long, there's some scenes that can be cut out, you're like, okay, this movie could have been shorter because we don't need all this extra stuff. John Wick Chapter 4 is a movie that needs to be this long because there's a lot of world building here, there's a lot of character development, and this movie is magnificent. This is honestly, to me, one of the best action movies ever made. This might be the perfect action franchise. You know, The Matrix was great, and then they made all those other bad movies. The Mission Impossible films, as good as they are, the first three movies weren't as good. And then four came out, was great. Five came out, was great, even better. Six came out, it's amazing. We're getting seven this year. I'm really excited for that movie. But also, um, the James Bond franchise also has had a little bit of rocky starts. There were some movies that were good, some movies that were disappointments, but some that were great. No Time to Die, I think, is amazing. I think that Spectre was not good. I think that Skyfall is great. Casino Royale. There's all these movies in there that are good, but there's some movies in that James Bond franchise dating back way back in like the early 1990s or whatever that weren't as good. John Wick is a franchise that has had hit after hit after hit. And what's interesting is that the money has increased bigger and better. And this movie might be the best John Wick movie of the four. The action sequences are filmed amazingly. They're some of the best I have seen ever. The overall scope of this movie, the size, the landscape is magnificent. There's so many characters in this movie that work, that are not just shoehorned in to be like they're going to make a spin-off. They matter to the movie. These amazing fight sequences that last almost for like 20 minutes work. There's a scene in Paris that involves a dragon's breath shotgun, and they do this thing where it's like the camera moves up. And if you ever seen play the game Hotline Miami, there's a lot of references, and I didn't know it until then, but it's a great scene. The supporting cast as well is great. John Wick is not only the best part of the movie, Donnie Yen steals the show as his blind assassin. I don't know why they have to make him blind, but he was awesome in the movie. He kind of plays like an old friend to John that, is kind of in on the high table. Bill Skarsgård as the villain is awesome. He was really good. Hiroyuki Sanada, it's great to see Hiroyuki Sanada in these in action movies, because he's so legendary in Japan and China. And, he was in the Mortal Kombat movie. That wasn't really that good, but again, he is awesome in this film. You have the late great Lance Reddick, who's in this movie. That's great as well. You know, there's all these other characters. There's this one character in particular who goes by Mr. Nobody, who has like this dog that protects him, and it was amazing. He was great. The acting, the performances in this movie are magnificent. But what really stands out with John Wick Chapter 4 is the world building. There's all these different locations that really want John Wick dead to get all that money. And so we go to these places, and then after that, it turns into an action sequence that's exhilarating and amazing, and that really pushes the boundaries of, can this be done? There's a great sequence involving a car chase in Paris that ends up on the streets, and it is so good, so great. It really just it really is a great movie, and I couldn't imagine the impossibilities that they had. This isn't, I mean, there's obviously some CGI and special effects in here, but there's some real stunts in here that are awesome, that absolutely work, and everything is filmed perfectly. The cinematography is great. All these wide shots. There's never these close-up action sequences that can't tell what's really going on. They're all wide. They're perfectly handled. Without spoiling the movie, there's some emotion in here that really works. The sound design of this movie is amazing. Again, I could pick a pocket or pick apart everything that happens in this movie because it is handled so good and so well, and it's awesome. The thing I was also nervous about with this movie is, if the runtime is this long, is there going to be some problems? The runtime doesn't feel like it's really dragging on. You can argue, well, there's some scenes involving nothing that don't really work, but again, doesn't matter. This movie is one of the best action films, honestly, of all time. Like, they're in the fourth film. They've gotten better and better and better ever since. And you wonder, is 4 going to top everything that 3, 2, and 1 did combined? And the answer is yeah, they do. They take on everything that was so good about the first 3 movies and double overdo it. And they make these movies work. There's a reason why these movies are so popular. It's because the action's filmed great. Keanu Reeves is a great action movie star. This director knows how to handle these action movies that are so well. And you look back in 2014 when they released the trailer. I think it was a month before the movie came out, and everybody was like, "That looks like a DVD movie." Ended up being one of the best films of that year, and they just kept getting better and better, and it became a franchise and it became a box office hit. And it's just, these movies work so well, and what they do in the end, what they do for what they do for the future of this franchise. I'm not spoiling it, but they set up a lot of great ideas on what could happen. Now, honestly, I don't think they should make another one because there's no way they're going to top whatever they did in chapter 4, in chapter 5, if they want to do a chapter 5. But I think they said that they're going to take a break with John Wick movies after this movie, so again, it's amazing. It's a fantastic film. And I originally said weeks ago that I said like a couple weeks before spring break that Creed 3 was amazing. It was my favorite movie of the year. John Wick Chapter 4 takes that spot. It is fantastic. Without question, this movie is a 10 out of 10. It is a 10 out of 10. Um, scale of 1 to 10, and 10 out of 10, and it's gonna get an A plus. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's the first one I'm doing this year. It is fantastic. It is fantastic. Everything about this movie that you've heard from early people that have seen it say it, it's great. It's true. This is a great, great movie, and people should support these types of movies and also support Dungeons and Dragons because this movie's going to have a lot of people seeing it the second weekend. But I really want Dungeons and Dragons to get a lot of hype because it's a good movie too, and it's getting a lot of great reviews. Go see it. So they make more of those types of movies because it's a fun film. And John Wick Chapter 4, even though it's a better movie than that, it's a fun movie, and it's great. So John Wick Chapter 4, it's out. It hit theaters. It's incredible. It's awesome. Question is though, have you seen John Wick Chapter 4? Let me know because I think I've spoken to one person that's I think in the one of the rooms over there that I said they've seen John Wick Chapter 4 and they say it's amazing, it's awesome, and I don't they don't know, he doesn't know what they're going to do with the next movie if they make one, we don't know. But again, that's my take on it. And with that said, that's going to do it for the stream. Thank you so much for the people who were viewing, who tuned in. Thank you so much. Next weekend, I don't know if we're gonna have a stream. I think we're gonna have a stream next weekend. Thursday and Friday, there's no courses or school happening, so that's the thing that's going to factor in on this. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the Western Star Movie Podcast, HJW. Tune in next week, April 5th, when I'll be talking about other things and news to talk about. You guys so much, and I'll see you next time.